Welcome back and thank you for joining me for episode 5, the final chapter of the ACR Growth series. So in this episode, I'm going to be covering off the ACR method, which is a method I utilize with my clients to deliver high profitable results for their e-commerce businesses, and what the actual fixed system looks like, where you bring in acquisition, conversion and retention together all under one compounding system. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we started here probably 4 episodes ago where we looked at the 3 pillars, one system, one constraint at a time. We looked individually at acquisition, we looked at conversion, and we looked at retention in the previous episode. This episode here now together is bringing all of them together under the ACR Growth Method and what that essentially looks like for how we scale high profitable e-commerce brands. So just a very quick recap. We've essentially got 3 pillars surrounding the ACR system. Those pillars are acquisition, conversion and retention. Acquisition, your paid media, targeting, creative, how customers enter the system and we get eyeballs on the product. Conversion, this is where we're essentially ensuring that we've got highly optimized websites that allow for high levels of conversion that drives traffic to the drives that traffic from a website to a converted customer basis. And then we've got retention focusing on email, SMS and lifetime value programs. And this is how buyers become your reoccurring revenue to grow profitability in your business. The ACR system essentially is a constraint resolution model. So what we mean by that is we don't just come in and run ads for you, okay? Because ads are very few, often they're not the problem. Okay, the problem is the constraint sat elsewhere in your business, and the idea of the ACR Growth Method is it identifies where that constraint is and fixes it so that we can implement across the system. What you're essentially looking at, when you increase your conversion rate, let's go into this in a bit more detail. When you increase your conversion rate, your acquisition spend works a lot harder for you as a business. When you increase your retention rate, your lifetime value rises and your cost of acquisition becomes more affordable. And when your lifetime value increases, you can actually scale acquisition profitably, which means you can have more money to spend on ads, which means you can have more money to bring in new customers, which means you can extenuate that lifetime value even further by building out that email list and building out those customer profiles that you've got to increase recurring revenue. Now, just want to kind of go into a bit of detail in terms of what working with us looks like under the ACR Growth Method. And I'm just going to break this down into sort of the key parts. So stage 1 essentially is a diagnostic call. This is 30 minutes where we spend time together looking at the constraint in your business. We'll identify things that we believe could be a quick fix. We'll identify things that are long-term fix, but we'll identify things that you need to implement to actually allow you to make that next step to your next level of growth. The outcome for us is always profitable growth. It's always about making sure that you can scale profitably and sustainably to ensure that you, as the founder, have a much better life and a less stressful life for the brand that you started. This ensures that we identify the constraint, ensures that we're a good quality of fit, and I can assure you it is not a sales call. I am the worst salesperson in the world. There is no sales efforts on these calls. It is simply about identifying the constraint and understanding exactly what works for you, what you need to implement first, and how you can actually drive profitable growth. Stage 2, if we are a good fit and we believe that we can support you and you can work with us and all parties agree, we'll then do a deep dive analysis across all 3 pillars of the business. So we'll essentially look at a constraint map that will be produced that identifies the priority order for which we need to fix things. It could be acquisition, it could be conversion, it could be retention, or it could be that we look at retention first, then we build out your acquisition, then we optimize your conversion. There's different orders that these happen in, but fundamentally they're done at a system level because this is not just a one and done experience. We're not just going to come in and run some ads. We're not just going to come in and manage your emails. The whole system is how we operate, and that's what makes us different. We are a growth partner. We are not an agency. Stage 3 is the roadmap delivery. This is where we have a sequenced, prioritized action plan so that every intervention is justified against the constraint and not just a channel brief. So we're not just going to look at channel metrics, we're going to look at fundamental metrics right across the business and ensure that we can enter stages 4 to 7, which essentially are around where we execute the plan, we optimize and we compound for future growth. This is where we are taking that constraint resolution to the next level. We are testing everything. We are carrying out quarterly reviews, monthly reviews, weekly reviews, whatever the system is that we kind of require. And that system is constantly improving itself to make profitability more achievable. Now, all of this ACR method and the growth method that we essentially own, and I've actually implemented and utilized for my own e-commerce brand, it's all based on Lean Six Sigma methodologies. It's all around identification of a constraint, reduction of variation, eliminating waste, and optimizing the throughput. Those fundamental pillars are gravely different to anything any other agency does, which is why we get the results we get. Now, what is different from a typical agency? Typical agency model will focus, their thinking process will be on channel first. So they'll either focus on meta ads, they'll either focus on Google, they'll focus on Klaviyo, they'll focus on one particular channel, and that's it. They do not have a system first level of thinking that we optimize and we utilize at JHA Media. They optimize for impressions, clicks, and ROAS. They will sell you a service on the principle of delivering those results for you. However, what they will not deliver is profitability, increased lifetime value, customer acquisition efficiency. Those three fundamental metrics are what makes your business profitable and makes your business far easier to grow and sustainably grow in this current climate. From a reporting perspective, which is equally as important, they'll typically send you a set of channel metrics. Those channel metrics will show ROAS. They'll show new customers acquired. They'll show returning customers acquired. What they will not give you is insight into your true business metrics, which you need to be able to scale your business profitably. And the output, this will be a managed dependency. This is probably the most important part. The whole principle of implementing the ACR growth method for our clients is that we are transferring capability. I will not exist in your business for years and years on end because I've got other clients to work with. I've got other kind of challenges to tackle. So we transfer capability. That ability then stays within your business. So we're essentially removing that dependency on us. I mean, in short, what we're essentially doing is doing ourselves out of a job, right? But that is the model that we operate. We transfer that capability. And our goal fundamentally is not to renew the retainer that we set out. It's to fix the constraints in your business. It's to fix the constraints that you have that are debilitating you and removing your ability to actually scale your business profitably and to hit the levels of growth that you want to fundamentally hit. That's our role. That's our job. I'm just going to give you a conservative example based on kind of a couple of clients that we've worked with and what the conservative improvement projections would typically look like for a 50K a month business. Now, typical uplift, let's just say, for example, based on existing traffic, your conversion rate improves by 0.5%. That's really, really low. We always go above this, but let's just kind of run with it. That's 3 to 8K a month improvement. Retention system increasing by 10%. That's a 4 to 12K a month improvement. 2 times in your email revenue, including your list build, that's 2 to 6K a month in revenue. Cost of acquisition reduction of 15% because we're increasing lifetime value, 3.5 to 7K revenue saved. And looking at your average order value increase by £8, which is a really nominal number, but that'll be done by post-purchase upsells. We could achieve that. That's a 2.5 to 5K a month increase. So what the conservative impact looks like for a typical 50K a month business, again, without having insight of margins or detail, this is purely just for demonstrating purposes. That would look like an increase of between 15 to 38K a month in revenue for your business. And most of that revenue, because it's derived from email, will be profitable revenue as well. And based on the fact that we're going to increase that conversion rate, increase the throughput of actual traffic to your website to ensure that it converts, all of that's going to improve your cost of acquisition, which fundamentally is going to improve your conversion rate as well, and obviously your actual cost to acquire. So 38K a month improvement on a 50K a month business by operating and identifying the constraints and operating in the way that follows the ACR growth method. Now, there is 2 pathways into the system. There is the you implement and we direct model, which is essentially the ACR growth light. This is a done with you offer, where essentially we provide a coaching and consulting model. You retain operational control, but we provide the system for you and the strategy direction and the accountable structure. This is typically ideal for businesses who are between that 15 to 45k a month and they have internal capacity to actually implement. If you don't have internal capacity and you don't want to work in your business and you would rather work on your business, then I would recommend the actual done for you model. The done for you model is essentially we implement, you oversee. This provides full system ownership, strategy, execution, testing, optimization managed by our team. And this essentially is worked on a growth partnership model. So we have shared accountability. In essence, if you win, we win. That's the way the model works. This is traditionally ideal for businesses who are between that 40 to 100k a month and ready to move themselves from the execution and ready to hit that next stage. But as I said, if your business is at 15 to 45k a month and you've got that internal capacity, but you don't want to spend it working in the business, you want to work on the business, you might be a single founder, whatever it might look like, you have the option to utilize the done for you offer as well. The core belief that we have, and certainly stand by, is that growth is not a traffic problem. It's a systems constraint problem. It always is. It's always a system constraint problem. If you fix the system, you're able to scale your business. There is no doubt about that at all. So this is the self-assessment work that needs you to undertake if possible. Is your revenue inconsistent month on month? Are your ads running but your profit doesn't match? Is your conversion rate never being properly audited? And do you have no systematic retention or email system in place? And if the ad stopped, so would your business. If this describes your business, then your system definitely needs fixing and you should get in contact with us. There is a link in the bio and a link in the description of this video as well for a 30-minute diagnostic call. As I said, this is not a sales call. This is a qualified conversation to identify the precise constraint in your business and to determine the right pathway forward. If the fit is right, we'll say so. If it isn't, then we'll say so as well. Link in the description. Hope to speak to you soon. Thank you very much for following along in the series. I hope you found it useful and will hopefully speak to you soon.